The Dog Door, by Megan, in Wisconsin. Not long after my son was born, my then husband and I bought a 100-year-old house nestled among thick old-growth trees. We pictured it as the perfect space to grow into, just the three of us and our dog, Charlie. The house had character. Arched doorways, creaky floors, and a crooked gate out back. It also had an unsettling amount of sounds. Having grown up afraid of the dark, thanks to an incident with a neighborhood boy who once peered through my window, I constantly reminded myself the late-night thumps, groans, and rattles were just part of the charm. Old trees brushed the windows, the back gate clanked open in the wind, the radiant heat hissed and clanged. I learned to manage my fear like an adult, by diving under the covers and pretending it wasn't real. When my husband and I eventually separated, he took the dog. I kept the house and its noises. One evening, when my son was still small, we were curled up on the couch watching a movie. It was just dusk, and my phone died, naturally. As a Type B person, the one charger I owned could usually be found somewhere strange, but this time, it was on the kitchen counter. I crossed the darkening house, plugged it in, and stopped. That goosebump prickling, stomach-dropping sensation of being watched hit me square in the chest. I turned toward the back window. I saw that the gate was open again, but this time, someone was sitting cross-legged in the yard, perfectly still. They wore a hood and dark sunglasses, despite the dimming light. At first I thought I must be imagining it, but as I stepped closer to the glass, they didn't move. Not even a twitch. They didn't look away, even when it was obvious that I saw them. I locked the back door in a rush, grabbed my charger and dead phone, and ran to my laptop. The first person I saw online got a frantic message. "Someone's in my yard. My phone is dead. If you don't hear from me in 5 minutes, call the cops." I expected the figure to leave now that they'd been seen, but they didn't. Minutes passed. My son asked for a glass of water, and I fumbled for an excuse to keep him from the kitchen. Finally, the phone flickered to life. I called 911, doing my best to sound calm while explaining that the person might be gone, but their presence had been just wrong. The dispatcher kept me on the line. She asked if I could peek out a window, discreetly, and double-check that the back door was still secure. I crept toward the kitchen, my knees trembling on the hardwood. The door was locked, but I'd forgotten about the dog door, large enough for a medium-sized animal and never something I'd bothered to block. As I rose to glance outside, I found myself suddenly face to face with the figure, pressed right up against the glass. A hood, black sunglasses, motionless. I gasped, my words falling apart as the dispatcher urged me to grab my son and get somewhere safe. I sprinted back to him. "We have to go. Now!" As I scooped him up, I heard it. The soft, unmistakable creak of the dog door swinging open. I didn't look back. I bolted through the front door, leaving it wide open, and ran across the street to a neighbor's house, pounding on the door until they answered. They were in the middle of a dinner party, but ushered us in without hesitation. Someone took my son, gave him juice, and turned on cartoons. I sat at their window, shaking, staring at my house, whispering apologies for my indoor cat, Felix, that I'd left behind. The police arrived a short time later and found her. A young woman sitting calmly on my back steps, hood up, sunglasses still on, gently, rhythmically swinging her arm in and out through the dog door. They told me that she had refused to speak. She just sat there with a strange grin on her face and her head cocked to the side. They couldn't confirm whether or not she had been in my house, but stated that she was small enough to fit through the pet opening. They found a small stuffed toy in her pocket. Was it my son's? I didn't get to see it, so I guess I'll never know. That night, I boarded the dog door shut with whatever I could find, but the house never felt the same again. It seemed dark and unnerving. The creaks and clatters that I once dismissed as just an old home, I now wondered if they'd ever really been innocent at all. Were we being watched the whole time? We moved not long after, and I'll never have another dog door again.
There's something outside my house. Posted by You Throw Silent Watcher. I never thought I'd be one of those people posting a "this really happened to me" horror story on Reddit. I'm not superstitious. I don't believe in coincidences. I live in a cookie-cutter suburb with trimmed hedges, automatic garage doors, and dads who power wash their driveways on Saturdays. But last week, something happened to me. Something I can't explain, and something I pray never happens to anyone else. It started around 11:30 p.m. I had just finished watching something dumb on TV and was dozing off on the couch when I heard a sound outside. It wasn't loud, more like the rustling of leaves or a slow shuffle against the concrete. I live alone in a one-story house with a fenced backyard, and that night there was no wind. At first I thought it was just a neighbor's dog or a raccoon. I almost ignored it, until I heard it again. Closer, slower, deliberate. I sat up, muted the TV and listened. Silence for maybe 10 seconds. Then, a faint tap. Not at the front door. Not even at a window. It sounded like someone gently scraping something. Fingernails maybe? Along the side of the house. Right along the bedroom wall. I got up and walked quietly to the front window. The porch light was on, but it didn't reach far enough to illuminate the side yard. Still, I could make out just enough to see movement. A shadow, human-shaped. Standing still, watching. My heart sank. I reached for my phone, planning to call someone, anyone, but the screen was black. Dead battery. No problem, I thought. I'll just grab the charger. Then I remembered. I had left it in the car earlier that day when I was at a coffee shop. It was still out there on the passenger seat. Panic set in. The shadow moved again, this time toward the back of the house. I crouched down and turned off the TV. My heart was pounding so loudly I thought it might give me away. I crawled across the living room to the kitchen window that faces the backyard. I didn't dare open the curtain fully. I just parted the blinds a tiny bit and peered through. The motion sensor light had turned on. I swear to you, someone was standing there. Just standing, next to the shed. Not moving, not making a sound. Just watching the house. At first I thought maybe I was imagining it, that maybe it was a tree or some weird shape in the shadows. But then the figure moved slightly, just a tilt of the head, and I saw the glint of what might have been eyes. I backed away from the window and nearly tripped over my kitchen stool. The motion light went out a few seconds later, plunging everything back into darkness. For the next hour, I crept from room to room, lights off, checking windows, trying to track where the person was. I could hear them circling the house, slow footsteps in gravel, the creak of the gate opening even though I knew I locked it, and once the unmistakable sound of someone brushing up against the siding right outside the bathroom. There was no way I was going to sleep that night. I sat in the hallway with a camping axe clutched in my hand, heart racing and straining to hear any sound through the walls that I could. And then, just before dawn, everything stopped. Like whoever it was just vanished into thin air. When the sun finally came up, I worked up the courage to step outside. Everything looked normal. The yard was undisturbed, the gate was closed again, and no windows were broken. I might have thought it was a nightmare, a sleep-deprived hallucination. If not for one thing. The footprints. They were in the soft dirt near the side of the house just under my bedroom window. They were deep and spaced like someone had been pacing there for a long time. But they were barefoot prints, and they were everywhere on that side of the house. But here's the thing that still chills me. There were no leaving footprints, just a trail across the walkway in my side yard, and nothing else. I told a few friends. They laughed it off, said maybe I was dreaming, or had watched one too many horror movies alone. One of them joked that I should invest in some porch cameras. But I knew what I saw. I knew what I heard. That was 4 nights ago. But here's the craziest part. Last night, the neighborhood had a summer barbecue. Typical stuff, burgers, lawn chairs, too many kids running around. I've been on edge, so almost didn't go, but I thought maybe being around people would help calm my nerves. Maybe help me convince myself it really was all in my head. Everything started off fine. and I kind of started to relax. That's when my next-door neighbor, Sarah, brought it up. She leaned in over a plate of potato salad and said, "Hey, I don't want to freak you out, but did you hear all that weird noise a few nights ago? I thought it was my husband out back until I realized it was coming from your yard." She said she heard footsteps, slow, dragging ones, on gravel. A rustling, like someone brushing past bushes. Then a knocking sound, like knuckles against wood. I was frozen as I listened to her. I got goosebumps. Then, she laughed. "No one was out there, though," she said with a shrug. "I looked. I thought maybe it was you." I told her I hadn't been outside that night, but that I had heard the same thing. She stared at me for a second, smiled awkwardly, then changed the subject. I didn't stay long after that. My mind was racing. It wasn't my imagination. It's 2:06 a.m. as I'm typing this. I have my phone charger next to me. I double-checked every lock. I bought 2 new motion lights and installed a camera on the porch. But right now, as I sit here in the dark, I swear I can hear it again. A slow, scraping sound against the siding outside my window. The motion light just turned on, but I'm too scared to look. I've just called a couple friends to come over and pick me up. I'm not walking out of this house alone. I'll keep you posted. Update. It's been 2 weeks and I haven't heard any more noises. But this morning, I caught my neighbor's dogs digging a hole at the side of my house. I kept trying to get them to stop because they were making a mess. They both just growled and kept digging. One of them pulled up a duffel bag that was covered with rope. They started barking like crazy and trying to chew through the knots. I went to get my neighbor, and by the time we got back, the ground was littered with what appeared to be bones and teeth. There was even more in the bag. I was sick to my stomach. What were we looking at? Were these actually human remains? As I dialed 911, I could see the look of terror on my neighbor Sarah's face. I couldn't tell if it was fear or guilt. She looked panicked as she mumbled something and took off. I was shook. I was so confused and genuinely scared. The cops came and took everything, said they would update me in a couple weeks. I don't know what the hell is happening at my house or with my neighbors, but this shit is crazy and I'm moving out.
The package, posted by U Glass Hostings. I work for a house-sitting agency in Oregon. Most jobs are uneventful: clean up, walk dogs, water plants. Easy enough, but I'm writing this because I need someone to tell me I'm not crazy. 2 weeks ago, I was assigned to watch a house for a couple vacationing in Switzerland for 10 days. I didn't know them personally, they booked through the agency, but the place was beautiful. Big, modern, and secluded at the top of a hill. There were lush trees that lined the long driveway up to the house. They had a cat named Jasper, and a tank full of those weird, slow-swimming fish. The place was spotless and everything was great. Nothing felt off. Until it did. On day 3, around 2:30 in the afternoon, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find a package. No return address, but no unusual markings. I brought it inside, left it on the kitchen counter, and didn't think twice about it. I spent the rest of the afternoon vacuuming and relaxing. Later that evening, while feeding Jasper, I noticed he was acting weird. He was circling the package that I had left on the table. His tail was fluffed out, like he didn't like it. He was making a weird growling sound. As I showed him off the table, the doorbell rang again. I opened the door. No one was there. No car out front, not a bird in the air, just cold silence and a slightly swinging wind chime. I chalked it up to a prank. Kids, maybe. Delivery lag. Something. But then, around 6 p.m., the doorbell rang again. Still no one. By the third ring, 6:20 p.m., I stopped answering. The house is all glass and modern steel, which is not much for privacy. It's the kind of place that looks great in magazines, but makes you feel exposed from every angle. I guess the homeowners didn't mind that, though, because they were at the top of the hill, and you could only see the rooftops of the neighbors' homes below. Then the house phone rang. No one had called it since I got there. I answered. A low and menacing voice said,
"You look better in red.
I froze. I hadn't been outside the house all day, but I had been wearing a red sweatshirt earlier. I had taken it off when it got warm. "Who is this?" I asked, my voice cracking. The line went dead. My heart was pounding. I closed every curtain I could. I tried calling the homeowners. It went straight to voicemail. I texted them, emailed. Nothing. 6:45 p.m. The doorbell rang. 7:00 p.m. again. 7:20 p.m. again. Then the phone rang a second time.
Why did you leave the kitchen? I liked watching you there.
Asked the same strange voice. I felt like I was going to vomit. I turned off the lights and sat on the floor, heart racing. Was someone outside? Inside? I thought maybe there was a camera, watching me. I tore through everything, everywhere, but found nothing. Then I heard Jasper hissing again at that box on the table. I hurried to the kitchen. He was batting and clawing at it. That's when I saw it. A tiny hole in the cardboard, like the kind that would be for air, or a lens. I carefully pulled the box open. There was nothing inside except for a bunch of padding paper. But then I saw a tiny black circle embedded in the inside wall. It was a camera. I screamed. I couldn't help it. I unplugged it from the tiny battery pack and threw it in the sink. I wanted to run out of that house right then and there, but I was too afraid to open the door. I didn't know who was out there. I grabbed my phone to call the police, but it suddenly switched to no service. I tried not to lose it as I fumbled for the house phone. No dial tone, no calls were connecting. There was silence for about 5 minutes. My mind was racing with thoughts of escape. What was I going to do? How was I going to get out of here? Suddenly, the house phone rang. It was like a shrill knife through the silence, and it jolted me. I didn't answer. I got up to rifle through the kitchen drawers to find some sort of weapon, a knife, anything. The phone wouldn't stop ringing now. Calls, unknown numbers, one after another. I still didn't answer. I just ran through the house, making sure every window was locked, every door bolted. I kept telling myself to stay calm, but I was shaking so hard I dropped my own phone twice. I had been frantically trying to dial 911 repeatedly, but my phone kept showing no service. Over and over and over. And even though the house phone kept ringing with incoming calls, there was still no dial tone, and my outgoing call attempts never went through. Sometimes there would be a busy signal, but other times there was no sound at all. Then, the tapping started. On the window behind the TV. Then another tap, at the back patio. Then footsteps, not on the porch, but around the house, circling me. I swear I heard breathing just outside the bedroom window. I was in a full-blown panic at this point. I felt completely helpless and trapped. I tried calling the police one more time as I quickly ran into the bathroom and locked the door behind me. But before I could dial, I got so dizzy I had to sit down. My eyes felt heavy. The room tilted like I was on a boat. I felt myself fading away. Then, nothing. No dreams, no sound. Just black. When I woke up, it was morning. Bright sunlight was streaming through the window. Only, I wasn't in the bathroom anymore. I was in the private room that the homeowners told me not to enter. They'd explicitly said in their welcome packet, "Please do not enter the West guest room. It contains delicate antiques." My head was pounding, and the room smelled strange, like metal and plastic and something sweet and rotten. I stumbled out, disoriented, and ran to the bathroom to check my body. No marks, no wounds. I still had all my clothes on, but I was so tired. My mouth tasted like I'd swallowed cotton and my arms felt like sandbags. Forgetting that the phones hadn't been working, I picked up mine and tried to call the homeowners again. Still nothing. The house phone? Same. Still no dial tone. I did a walkthrough of the house. Everything looked normal. Jasper meowed and rubbed my leg like nothing had happened. Until I got to the back door. It was open. Not wide, but just slightly ajar. I never touched that door. It was locked when I arrived, and I had no reason to open it, so I never did. My stomach dropped. I felt the rush of panic all over again. I couldn't stay there another second. I grabbed Jasper, my bag and phone, and I ran like hell out of there. About 2 miles down the road as I was driving, I finally got service back on my phone. I called the agency from the car and told them I was done. I was too overwhelmed to even explain. I just told them that something wasn't right at that house and to not send anyone else over there. They were irritated with me and said they'd call the owners to confirm, but I didn't care. That night, I stayed with my sister, but could barely sleep. The next morning, I got a call from the agency. The owners still hadn't responded. No calls, no emails. They weren't due back for another 5 days. Calmer now, I explained to my agent what had happened and why I left. I asked them to please send someone with the police to check out the house and that I had taken the cat with me. That was a week ago. I haven't heard a thing from them since. And I still have Jasper. I have no idea what happened to me during that blackout period when I passed out in the bathroom or how I woke up in that strange room. Part of me hopes I never find out.
Secret Book Club.